Hi, everybody. Brian Norcross here with an update on the tropics. For this week in the Atlantic, it's all good. There is nothing that's going to happen this week, and likely next week, and maybe even for the rest of June. There may be some kind of system up in the middle of the Atlantic, but the tropics are completely shut down. I'll show you more on that in just a moment. But the concern is for the Mexican coast. There is a tropical storm there named Erick that is forecast to become a hurricane and make landfall late tomorrow or into early Thursday along the coast to the east of Acapulco, down by Puerto Escondido, or somewhere in that coastline area. It's tricky, and I'll show you here in just a second. But let's take a look at the latest advisory we have from the National Hurricane Center. 50-mile-an-hour winds. This is 2 p.m. here on Tuesday Eastern Time, or 12 p.m. Mountain Time, which is where the storm is out there. Moving west-northwest at 9. Now, west-northwest is kind of parallel to the Mexican coast here, and a little bit of angle difference is going to make a lot of difference on exactly where it ends up making landfall along the coast and where the worst of the winds are that come ashore. But a lot of the coast is going to be affected by the heavy rain, and some parts of the coast that actually have beaches and so forth will be affected by significant storm surge. 1,001 millibars is the pressure. All right, let's look at the cone from the National Hurricane Center and the forecast intensity. And here you see the idea is overnight tonight. When it says Wednesday a.m., it means kind of in the overnight hours. It intensifies into a hurricane. If it doesn't get there sooner, it's already wrapping up. So this is, by everything we know, going to be a significant storm, and then continuing to intensify through the day tomorrow. The forecast right now has it to a high-end Category 2 at landfall somewhere here between Acapulco and Puerto Escondido on the southern Mexican coast. Now, this is not a part of Mexico that normally gets hurricanes. Acapulco had a horrendous hurricane, of course, 2 years ago. Really tremendous destruction in the city there, because the city is built for earthquakes with very light building materials, not for strong winds. And that's the situation all along that coast. Oaxaca here, this is the state of Oaxaca right here. This is the state of Guerrero up here where Acapulco is. And in Oaxaca, they've had several earthquakes only in modern times. So things there, really, people have earthquakes in their mind, not hurricanes so much. But this is a hurricane that's coming, and it's going to happen, as I say, late tomorrow, with the weather deteriorating late tomorrow into Thursday. Now, the question is, if it stays on this side of the cone, the Acapulco is going to get much worse than if it stays on this side of the cone. It comes ashore and starts weakening, and they get the left side. So, this is the whole thing we see in Florida and everywhere else, that the one side of the cone makes a tremendous difference, especially when the storm is moving kind of parallel to the coast. Let's look at the computer models, and you see they're a little bit all over the place. We have a bunch of them over here on this side of the cone, which would look like more of an Acapulco threat, although we have this coming up here, and generally what we look at is the smart average of them, and that's where that comes out, and that's why the cone is more or less where it is. But it's been going back and forth, so I don't want to minimize for folks in Acapulco that are in vulnerable areas. This is a threat. Now, this is not the same level of threat as in Puerto Escondido and down along the coast here. Down here in the Emerald Coast, it's called, to the east of Puerto Escondido. There are beautiful modern homes there, beautiful beach there, but the homes are generally elevated, and you're going to be on the side of the storm with the wind coming in off the ocean. So this is a wind threat, rain threat, and right at the coast, a storm surge threat. In these communities along here, like Puerto Escondido and a number of beach communities up along the coast, they have like little harbors, and that will catch the water, and there are some beaches there. A lot of places the coast is very elevated, no storm surge threat in elevated areas, but where the beaches are, that water is going to come in ways that you haven't seen. And unfortunately, there are a lot of tiki huts and different kinds of businesses along there. Very, very concerned for this entire area along the coast, and maybe even for Acapulco, depending on the exact final track. It's 2025, so we look at the AI models. The AI model from the European Center keeps the storm very weak near landfall and brings it in there not too far from Puerto Escondido. The Google experimental model that we just introduced last week brings it closer to in the cone, and as a category 1, but that one gives us the indication of what it could be, and it certainly has decent chances, like the National Hurricane Center discussion, of being a strong category 2 approaching a category 3. So we're going to be ready for that possibility. Full hurricane preparations for this entire zone need to be underway and need to be completed by tomorrow late in the day, tomorrow afternoon, let's say, to be sure that you're ready by the time the winds start to pick up and everybody is in a safe place. Here's where the warnings are. This is the hurricane warning from to the east of Puerto Escondido up to about halfway to Acapulco. So this is the highest odds threat zone for hurricane force winds. Doesn't say anything about storm surge or anything. This is all about the wind here. Farther north, hurricane watch for the possibility of hurricane force winds because of if it stays to the left of the track a little bit and just stays offshore longer, then we have that threat extending all the way up to the Acapulco area. Down to the east here, that's the Emerald Coast tropical storm warning. Expect winds up in the 50, 60 mile per hour range, maybe gusting to hurricane strength there, because you can see the coastline is this way. The winds are going to come around this way, so slam into the coast. You also see here, look at the mountains. The mountains start right beyond the coast. So mountains enhance the rainfall. The rainfall that falls in the mountains has to come back to the coast, and it's very dangerous. These rivers come through these towns all along here, where all this drains down to the coast. So this is a very dangerous situation here along the southern Mexican coast. In terms of the atmosphere, it's pristine. There's no reason to think this isn't going to intensify. You see the strong upper level winds are all up in here, well displaced. And this has been a stuck pattern. This is why we've had storm after storm off the Mexican coast this year. This one, unfortunately, is going to come ashore or impact the Mexican coast. When we look at the water here, look at this pocket of incredibly warm water. This small pocket in the vastness of the Pacific Ocean. This is the only place that's turning out storms this hurricane season, even all the way over to the other side of the Pacific. It's not happening, but we have this exceptionally warm area of water and atmosphere that is super conducive over top of it. So that's just the way Mother Nature's playing the cards this year, unfortunately, for our friends here in this beautiful part of Mexico here. You see the water temperatures up in the 85 to 90 degree range there. And where do the water temperatures compared to average? This is the difference from average. Look, they're above average here where this storm is organizing and strengthening. Up here, where they've been churned up by 4 other storms, they're actually cooler than average. So if by some luck it stayed off this way, it would run into slightly cooler water, but still it's plenty warm until you get up a little farther north. Once you get up in here, then the water starts getting actually cooler, just because of the way the currents happen to flow. All right, that's the Pacific. And the Atlantic, look at this, hostile conditions all across the Atlantic. Strong upper level winds, dust here. So what happens is the tropical disturbances come off of Africa, they're in the dust, they get all dried out, they run into the strong winds, and then they're weak and they get to the Pacific waters where suddenly everything comes together and boom, they turn into a storm. But the Atlantic is completely shut down. So no tropical development, at least for the next week. And I think there's a good chance that nothing is going to develop in the tropics through this month. But we're going to keep our eye, of course, on Erick here and concern for our friends in Mexico. So if you're on the Mexican coast, anywhere in the Acapulco, Puerto Escondido, Oaxaca area, you need to be in full hurricane preparation mode. I know you guys aren't used to it. It's a very unusual thing, but here we go, and the storm is coming. You guys take care.